doing?
Good.
I'm doing great. This is my old station. Well, 40's not. I don't know where the 40 came from. And I don't know where the ABC was. It was CBS when I was there. Tuscaloosa City Council today had a water department meeting. I don't know. That was like the worst part of my career, going to those city council meetings. God, wait. Do it here and in Columbus, Georgia. They were brutal. If you guys are having to do that, I'm sorry. But
I'm doing that right now, so I'll keep that in mind.
it's awful. It is just awful. Is Kip Tyner the mayor here?
He is the president of the city council. I'll tell him you said hello.
Please tell him Kip was news director of my first job, and tell him I'm sure he has not made those council meetings any more entertaining, though he's a fine entertainer in his own right. He's a good guy.
Well, Rece, it looks like you turned it around all right. You look like you're doing okay.
It was actually, not to give you some journalism life lesson, it actually was good for me. I joke about it all the time, but it was helpful because you learn to put together a story, you learn to be concise, you learn to dig through something that is inherently boring and try to make it of use to your audience. Fortunately, I don't have to deal with any of that anymore, but at least help me structure stories, because everything we do now is terribly interesting, exciting, and fun, and I get to work in the toy store of life now, so it's great.
On that same track, I saw you spoke to some students yesterday at Rece. I know you've done that a few years now. What does it mean to you to be able to come back here and kind of foster the next generation of sports media students?
I mean, we have a great program here, and I get to say we when I'm talking about the College of Communication, Information Sciences now, which we didn't call it that then either. But they've done such a great job enhancing the program and giving students opportunities to hone their craft and opportunity to work in this industry. So any little bit that I can do to help, if they like to hear, and get advice. Most of them want to know what it's like to try to get the first job, because that's the hardest one to get. So it's great to be able to talk to them and spend some time with them.
Is there any reason that Theo Vaughn was picked as a guest picker?
Have you checked out his social media following? You know how many people follow him? What is it, like 15 million people? That's a lot of the people. And he's hilarious. He's been on the show before. I mean, I understand that schools would like to have one of their legends, and we do that a lot. And we've had Joe Namath here. I think if memory serves, we've invited Ozzie Newsome. I think Ozzie would love to do it. Sometimes it just hasn't worked out, But when you have someone who sort of transcends the game and expands your reach, and he's also awesome, like Theo Vaughn. I mean, Theo Vaughn's like an easy yes. Hey Theo, can you come be the guest picker? Yeah, I think I can do that. You're in. That's kind of it. I mean, he's a star, man. He's big time.
Following up on that question, I actually work for ABC Thursday Reporting. A lot of people in this market were rooting for our meteorologist, Chief James.
I saw a little bit about this.
To be the guest picker. Yeah. Any response to why he wasn't selected?
James is an entertaining weatherman. He is wildly knowledgeable. I don't know if I had a hurricane headed to my house, James Spann would be the guy I would trust to tell me how that's going to go for me, right? I mean, you're talking to a guy who was actually in the house in the 1974 tornadoes, alongside the ones here in Tuscaloosa, among the most devastating tornadoes in history. James Spann is the man in all of that. James is not as funny as Theo Vaughn. He's a great guy. If we have rain tomorrow, we're going to need to reach out to James, but I don't know. I mean, I think we got to go Theo Vaughn, but I'm glad James was in the mix. I thought that was a great little push that his fans gave him, because he's a great guy, does unbelievable work. He's a tremendous weather guy.
Rece, you mentioned
he's right there with Jim Cantori. He might be better than Jim Cantori.
Rece,
and I like Jim. I'm just kidding, Jim.
You mentioned Theo Vaughn as the entertainer, but he also has an association with Vanderbilt, and it's kind of not normal to see GameDay bring in a guy kind of representing, I guess, the opponent, the away team. Why was this the time to bring Theo Vaughn in?
I think I just answered that. He's Theo Vaughn. He answers, and also I haven't heard anybody complain about Nick being up there every week. I mean, so, and not that, I mean, Nick is going to play it and tell you what he thinks, and he might pick against Alabama tomorrow or any other time. He's got the right to do that, and he might. But if you're talking association, is there anyone more associated with Alabama than Nick Saban? You know, so I don't think he's able to do his job without any problem, you know, because of past association. And if Theo is, I don't really know the update. I don't know if Theo is dating Diego's mom or if that's real or not, but if he is, I'm sure he can still make his picks and have some fun. And also the crowd can have some fun going, boo, Theo Vaughn, we don't like it that you're dating Diego Pavia's mom. So, I'm being very tongue-in-cheek about this. We're delighted to have Theo Vaughn because he's a big-time star. And if there are some people who would prefer to see a former player, I understand that. And they have a right to think that, and I respect that, and it's understandable. But you're also talking about one segment of the show where guys are picking games, and if we knew the outcomes of the game, and we're always right in our picks, we'd be living in, you know, giant palatial estates in arid regions. We would own Las Vegas, you know. So it's fun. You know, I love the fact that people are passionate enough to be unhappy about it, but at the same time, it's fun. They're picking games, and Theo Vaughn is in the business of fun, you know, for the most part. So it's, you know, I understand, but at the same time, I think if you take a half step back and kind of look at it, that it's like, it's okay. You know, it's really okay.
Rece, you guys are here for Alabama versus Vanderbilt. GameDay is here for a Vanderbilt game. They have the chance to beat Alabama 2 years in a row. How different is college football?
Huge. That is a microcosm of how the sport has changed in recent years. It's Vanderbilt can turn it around, and it's easy because of the legacies of both teams. Both are charter members of the SEC. Nobody's won more SEC championships than Alabama. Vanderbilt hasn't won any of the SEC championships in football. And yet, Vanderbilt can become bowl eligible tomorrow. If Vanderbilt wins and becomes bowl eligible, in the past when they became bowl eligible, I don't know, maybe they threw a parade that ended at Ryman Auditorium, for all I know. Tomorrow, if they become bowl eligible, they're going to go, that's great, we've got bigger, grander aspirations. And they've been able to do it quickly. Indiana, no one has lost more games in the history of the sport than Indiana. Went to the playoff last year, might go back this year. So the sport has changed a lot, and the concept of Vanderbilt at Alabama being a marquee game and being the host of GameDay was incomprehensible 3 years ago. And now, all of a sudden, you look at it, and Vanderbilt, if Vanderbilt wins this game tomorrow, they've proven they're legit. They might not make the SEC championship game. They might not make the playoff. But they've announced, if they win this game, that you're going to have to deal with them to get there. And it's a good thing for the sport.
What about Vanderbilt?
Sorry, touching on what you said about just never imagining Vandy would be here at College GameDay, how does that add to the challenge maybe of choosing what campus college matchup you guys go to?
I mean, we always try to go to great stories every week. Vanderbilt is a great story. And along with that, Alabama's response and winning at Georgia again is also a tremendous story. It's like, you know, reports of Alabama's demise greatly exaggerated, you know, after what they did in Athens last Saturday night. So it's a clash of, you know, a traditional power and an upstart, so what we were talking about earlier about the kind of the new era of college football. And then you also have this idea of like, oh, you know, everybody for years and years always laughed at a lot of my colleagues because all the writers wanted me the first one to say the dynasty was dead. You know, every time some ball bounced off a tuba and Alabama accidentally lost a game, you know, when Nick was here, it was like, it's over. You know, so boy, they were eager to do that, and all of a sudden, maybe not. That's a compelling storyline. Vanderbilt is a fascinating storyline because of its history and Pavia's a charismatic guy that people, if you watch the Netflix special, he's a fascinating dude and a great competitor and an improved player. You know, so he was good last year, and now things like throwing the ball downfield with accuracy consistently. He doesn't always have to break the pocket to make plays. He's he's one of the more fascinating characters in the sport. So you've got a lot of great storylines here. So we're picking a spot. That's what we look for. Sometimes it is the highest ranked opponent. Sometimes it is a traditional rivalry, and sometimes it's unexpected storylines. And we're thrilled to be here. I think it's going to be a great morning for us.
How do you give Coach Saban
You mentioned Vanderbilt's story a little bit. Why do you think people are so drawn to them? Why are they so compelling?
Everybody likes the underdog, right? I mean, everybody tends to, unless you were an Alabama fan and, rooting for the continuation of the dynasty. Most people who don't have a dog in the hunt, if you're watching a movie, usually the movie's built around the underdog, right? So I think because Vanderbilt has had the on-field struggles that it has had, really pretty much since the 20s, and meaning the 1920s, not the 2020s. I think seeing them rise, be an upstart, it's easy to get behind that storyline. Sort of reminds me a little bit of when, Stanford certainly has much better football history than Vanderbilt does, but it reminds me a little bit of when Harbaugh really got it going at Stanford and then David Shaw after that. It reminds me a little bit of that, the academic institutions that historically haven't been juggernauts, and all of a sudden, Stanford was, and Vanderbilt is threatening to be. So I think it's sort of rooted in that innate desire that most of us have to root for the underdog.
Has the panel given you and Coach Saban, or Coach Saban specifically, kind of a hard time over the last year and a half over the Vanderbilt loss? Kind of like you see online, y'all lost to Vanderbilt, to Coach Saban.
No, no, because look, I went to school here and I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of this place, and I grew up loving Alabama football. Nobody cares where I went to school, and I don't view it as the way to do my job properly, to go out there and advocate for Alabama or always take the Alabama position or anything like that. I mean, I just don't think it's the right way to do the job. For me, it's different for a player. I always say, people ask if I played in college, and I say that my talent ran out after high school, although my high school teammates would tell you it ran out a long time before that. So nobody, that's not how I need to approach my job and my judgment. And so the short answer is no. I mean, yeah, no.
Speaking of Stanford a second ago, Steve talked about his keys to the game revolving around Alabama's receivers versus the Vanderbilt secondary, although Diego Pavia versus the Bama defense is what is drawing most of the storylines. What are your keys to the game, and what are the matchups you're most looking forward to that you think will go toward deciding this ranked matchup?
Have you ever seen the movie, have you seen the movie Get Smart?
I have not.
Okay, it was a movie Get Smart, and right at the climactic scene where his bomb's about to go off, they run onto the stage. I'm pretty sure it was Steve Carell. He runs onto the stage and he tackles the guy, and the guy who was sort of a George Bush-like character portraying the president. I think it was James Caan, I'm not positive. Anyway, he stands up and he goes, "I like that tackling part." It was like at a Philharmonic type concert. He says, "I like the tackling part." The key for Alabama is to like the tackling part. They've got to get guys on the ground. Now, everybody's going to miss tackles. You're human. But if you go into those in-depth metrics and analytics, Alabama's 112th in the country in tackle percentage, meaning opportunities for tackles and ones that are executed. Get about 80%. That's a little bit low. They missed 10 tackles last year. 4 of them were on Pavia against Vanderbilt, depending on you look. I saw Pro Football Focus said a dozen. Our crew media says 10. It was a lot, and most of them were on Pavia, or a high percentage of them were on him. I think Alabama's had trouble stopping the run, haven't been great at that, and they haven't always been the surest tacklers. They'll need to be sure tackling tomorrow. You need to get guys on the ground.
You think that falls more on the coaches or the players?
I mean, ultimately, man, I'm trying to absolve the coaches, but tackling to me is players, because I think they've all learned the fundamentals. But again, look, you're going to miss tackles. You are, because it's a fast game against big, fast, strong, moving at a high rate of velocity human beings. You're going to miss some, okay? So I think minimizing the number you miss. And Diego is particularly slippery. He's got an innate feel for making guys miss. So I'm not here to say if they miss a tackle, they don't know what they're. It's not that. It's tough, man. My son's baseball coach, who was at Duke, now is at Virginia, used to say you're dealing with big men moving at a high rate of velocity, in baseball, and that's true in football too. So it's they need to minimize that. I think that's the biggest key to me, because if you don't miss tackles, you have a better chance of getting off the field on third down, which they really struggled with against this offense a year ago.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, thank you guys. That was fun. See you.